Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Today we're going to talk about UV resistant sprays to protect your sublimation projects. So perhaps you have made something in the past with sublimation and you've put it outdoors in the sunlight and the sublimation print fades very quickly. This can be frustrating, right? Because sublimation is supposed to be permanent. It becomes part of the surface. That's the best part of sublimation. You don't want those items to fade away when they're in the sunlight. And for things like we're gonna make today, we're gonna make these very cool helix wind spinners that I know you're gonna love. You don't want the image that you put on these to fade. So what do? UV resistant spray is the answer. So what you do is you put this on after you sublimate onto your surface. And this sort of puts a layer of protection over the sublimation so that the UV rays are not directly hitting your sublimated item. Now, this is not like a magic spray or anything, but it is going to help protect that sublimation and make it last longer, even if you put it in the sunlight. Now, there are a wide variety of UV resistant sprays on the market. I'm going to show you my favorite. We're going to talk a little bit about the spray. We're going to make a few projects here so you can see the spray in action. And then hopefully you will be better equipped to protect your sublimation projects from the sun. So first let's take a closer look at this UV resistant spray. This is the UV resistant spray that I will be using in this video. Now, this is basically for hard surfaces. I'm going to be using the matte version. They also make a gloss version. They also make UV resistant sprays for fabric surfaces. So if you have fabric, you can get those. I will link to some recommendations for UV resistant sprays in the description below this video. Now that we've looked at the spray, it is time to make a project, because why not make a project while we're talking about the spray? And these wind spinners are so unique. So if you've seen wind spinners before and you're like, I want a little something different this year for my garden, try these helix versions. So there's like an oval one and a large rectangle version. Super easy to make and so cool once you get them finished. So let's take a look at how to make these. Now in this video, I'm going to make some wind spinners. They're a bit different. They're like a helix. They're very, very cool. And I do have some sublimation blanks for that, 2 different types. And then you'll need heat resistant tape, a lint roller, heat resistant gloves, some kind of heat source, as well as your sublimation print. For this type of wind spinner, you will need an 8.5 by 14 inch sublimation paper. And now we can head to Canva and see how to make this design and then print it out on sublimation paper. To print your design, I'm using Canva, and I did a custom size of 8.5 by 14 because we do need 8.5 by 14 inch sublimation paper in order to make this. Then click Uploads, Upload File, and upload your image, and find the image on your computer. Then just click the image to add it to the canvas, and you can then resize from there. So I'm going to make this a little over 11 inches. And the image itself is a little over 5 when I make it a little over 11, which is fine. So I'm making it a little bit oversized. You can also hit position at any time and get an exact measurement there. Now I'm just going to center this up and then click share. In order to download for sublimation, I do PDF for print, CMYK, and then download. Then once you've downloaded that, you can print on your sublimation printer using sublimation ink on sublimation paper. You do want to be sure to mirror when you print. For these, you can just remove them from the wrapping. You might want to use a lint roller to lint roll them off. Then we want to add the sublimation print. So the first thing I'm going to do is to trim around this. Now I did make it oversized, and I'm just roughly trimming around this outside edge. Then I'm going to add one side of the spinner, and we can kind of locate it on the design a little bit since it's oversized. And then I do want to trim off a lot of the excess here. Then we do want to print on both sides. This other one, let's just leave it whole like this. So let's add this wind spinner. Again, locate it wherever you want it. Then add this second print over the top. Now I trimmed it fairly close, so it should be easy to locate on here. And then you can just use some heat resistant tape in several places to sort of sandwich the two together. Now, it is important for this not to move because we're going to be sublimating one side, then sort of flipping it over. So be sure to tape it well and sort of use your fingernail and really get in there and make sure it is tight. Then once you have this ready, you just want to add protective paper on both sides. And then we can head to the heat press and heat press this. So I'm pressing at 385 degrees for 60 seconds. Just add the entire sublimation sandwich into the heat press. Here I'm using my Cricut Auto Press, but I did replace the mat that goes on the bottom with a firmer mat. Heat one side for 60 seconds, flip, heat the other side for an additional 60 seconds, then remove from the heat press. You might want to add this to a heat resistant mat because it will be very hot when it comes out of here. After it's out of the heat press, all you need to do is remove your sublimation print from both sides and take a look at the gorgeous sublimation results. Now that we have this sublimated, let's take a look at adding some UV resistance. Then it's time to spray with the UV resistant spray. Be sure to shake the spray can for at least 2 minutes. Then hold the can about 10 to 12 inches from the surface and apply a light coat. Multiple thin coats are going to be best here. I think at least 3 to 4 coats over the entire surface. You do want to allow each coat to dry at least 10 to 15 minutes, and you can handle the project after 2 hours. I would wait 72 hours before actually using the wind spinner. You do want to spray outdoors or in a well-ventilated area and protect whatever surface that the wind spinner is laying on. So here I have my wind spinner inside of a cardboard box. The wind spinner itself, or if you purchase the glossy spray, it is very, very high gloss. Now this other one I sprayed with the matte version of the spray, and it definitely changes the appearance and makes the surface way less glossy. So use that information to pick whatever UV resistant spray that you need for your project. After you've sprayed this, it's dried, it's cured, it is time to make this a wind spinner. So you're going to grab both sides and twist in opposite directions. So if I twist this in opposite directions, you see that it is making a helix. Now you can do this as much or as little as you would like. And once you're done twisting it, it's ready to hang. Each of these comes with a spinner hook, and it has a hole at the top as well as the bottom, so you could chain these together and make long wind spinners if you would like. And now that I have this finished, all that's left to do is to hang it outdoors and, let the wind catch it and let it spin around. Now, I use this project as an example for my UV resistant spray, but seriously, whatever outdoor sublimation projects you're doing, I always recommend that you add this, especially if the object is going to be in direct sunlight. You could even add it if it's not going to be in direct sunlight, just to protect it from, rays that might or might not hit it. Now, I showed you the different sort of like matte and glossy, so you do want to pick whichever one you think will work best for the project that you have in mind. However, I do think this is a great way to make your sublimation projects last longer outdoors. Now, sublimation is permanent once you put it onto a sublimation blank. And it generally doesn't need any type of sealer or anything to protect it. This isn't really a sealer to protect the sublimation necessarily, it's more of a protective layer to block the UV rays from your sublimation. So think of it that way. Don't really think of it as a sealer, but a way to block the UV light from that sublimation, and therefore making your sublimation projects last even longer. Now, I would use this for projects for yourself, projects that you give as gifts, or projects that you sell that will be used outdoors. So I really think this is going to help those of you that are struggling with the sublimation projects that you're putting outdoors. If you have any questions about anything I've covered, drop down in the comment section, ask away. If you like this video and it helped you, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, head on over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. I have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.